Now, how this house kind of came to be, essentially. So, in 1836, Francis Sorrel, he had this house built for his second wife, Matilda, as a wedding gift. Being the early 1800s, the Sorrels, they would have had around 9 to 15 enslaved people working here at a time. The entirety of the lower level served the purpose of the working quarters. Both of these sections were actually kitchen spaces, and these fireplaces is where they prepared the food. So while you're in this big area out here, maybe reach out to some of the enslaved people, see what they're doing. Maybe they're cooking stuff, maybe they're working on other things, who knows. The real reason I started here was from this little section back this way. So, one of our most infamous spirits, we kind of named him Shadow Man, and you might be able to guess what he looks like, because we're not that creative with our names. So, Shadow Man, he's definitely one of our more common spirits people have interactions with. Every single time that somebody sees him, because it's usually, like, sometimes it's with pictures, occasionally, I don't know if I've ever seen videos of him, so if someone captures a video of Shadow Man, you might be the first. Most of the time it's just straight up with your eyes. That's the most common thing that I hear people say is they see him without cameras or anything. Every single time this happens, they say the exact same thing. Abnormally tall, 7 to 8 feet tall, with indistinguishable features. Just a very tall, three-dimensional shadow. Almost like if a shadow pulled itself off of the wall and was walking around. Now he can be seen, you might have noticed there's a chair in the corner of the breezeway. That chair. So this, it is a historic museum, which means that 99% of the furniture is going to be off limits. Shadow Man's chair is in the 1% category. I absolutely recommend sitting in Shadow Man's chair. Strange things have definitely happened there. There we go. So, people often sit in this chair while investigating, and the most common reports, they just get unusually, like, that's uncomfortable, strangely uncomfortable. They'll say they feel like being watched from the other end. There was a more extreme case where there was a guy who sat in the chair for a couple of minutes, and he ran to the courtyard in tears. And went out there and we're like, is everything cool? Like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah. I was just sitting in that chair, and all of a sudden it felt like every single emotion that I ever felt in my life hit me all at once, and I didn't know what else to do. When he got outside, he was totally cool. I'm not trying to scare anyone away from sitting in the chair. Definitely try it out. But for now, we're going to head back this way. If you go this direction and pull these two. Alright. So, this room, before I really get into what this room was, I am going to point out a bunch of stuff. So, 99% category furniture. These 3 chairs over here, definitely don't sit on those. That one says please do not touch, so that one speaks for itself. This one here, also not okay. This stuff over on this side of the room is all very super old, fragile, antique stuff. So, probably best to not mess around with that either. I know that it is strange. I'm going to be inviting you to walk into a very dark room full of antiques, but you got flashlights, so use them while we're here. Here is where the majority of the cleaning, the laundry would have been done. So while in here, definitely reach out to some of these enslaved people, see what they're doing. If maybe there's an extra fireplace, maybe they're cooking food, or if they needed extra food to make, I don't know. So yeah, this is where most of their work would have been done. So in here, ask about that kind of stuff. They weren't plantation slaves, they were urban slaves, which means that they had special skills they were meant to do. Some of them were cooks, they were blacksmiths, they were stable boys, they were carpenters, all different sorts of things. So we're asking about their occupations, different things like that. Also in this room is where people get a lot of strange feelings. So in this room, I mean, it happens all over the place, but this room has been really big with this lately. So something I just remember what I was going to mention outside, but I didn't. So you have all this equipment, you have your phones and everything. The best piece of equipment that you've already brought with you is yourself. So while investigating, definitely pay attention to like all the equipment and everything. Pay attention to what's going on around you and also with you. So definitely all of your senses can be helpful while investigating. Pay attention to what you're seeing, obviously, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, what you're feeling, all of it can help you out. Now maybe somebody in your group walks into a room and they feel something weird, like they just get a strange emotion, or just like, a lot of reports are unfortunately people get really nauseous. And no one else in their group gets that. Someone in another group gets the same thing in the same place. They kind of get nauseous in an area or something similar. And then we have validation. So that happens a lot in this room particularly. Everywhere else it can happen. So if it does happen, I recommend stepping out of the room. Or if it's just like one specific area, or maybe walk away from that area. And if it goes away, go back to the area. If it comes back, then that kind of boosts the chances of it being something paranormal. Now, also in this room is where I would like to introduce our first child spirit of the night, Bobby. A lot of people get evidence of Bobby in this room, particularly over in this general area. They're probably a child of some of the enslaved people here, and we kind of imagined that since a lot of people get evidence of him over this direction, maybe he's just sitting in the fireplace waiting for his parents to get done working. Bobby's really cool. If you're trying to reach out to him, I would recommend the flashlight or a spirit box. He's a pretty big fan of those, from what I've gathered. Now, that's about all I gotta say for this room. The next one, though, before we enter that room, this is going to sound like a scare tactic. I promise you, it is not. So, if you have any dangly jewelry, or any jewelry in general that is very valuable, or belong to somebody that is important to you, and you would be very upset if you were to lose it, I'm going to leave it up to you whether or not you want to take it off. But, after being in this room, just double check that you still haven't. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. Experiences that people have on it. So if you sit on it, if you do sit on it, you'll hear and you'll feel the springs compressed down. It's super loud, super creaky. People have sat on the couch and heard and felt the springs next to them compressed down. They've also felt the opposite, like somebody was already sitting on the couch and they stood up. There was this more extreme case. There was a lady sitting on this couch one time, and she said that it felt like somebody took her arm and like lifted it up as to get her up off the couch. So stuff like that. This couch is interesting. Now, this room was used as storage for most of its time, but there was a brief 5.5 years where it served a different purpose. It was the medical office for Dr. Frank Sorrel. Dr. Frank, he was one of Francis's oldest sons, and he specialized in trauma surgery. So, this room was a makeshift operating room for 5.5 years before the Civil War. Now, back then, trauma surgery, there is not a lot known about it, but he was one of the best, luckily. It was before the Civil War, so being one of the best, unfortunately, meant that he still lost over half of his patients in this room over the span of 5.5 years. So you can reach out to any of his patients. You're more than welcome to do that. We absolutely believe that some of his patients are still hanging around in here. Dr. Frank specifically, maybe not so much. We don't have any substantial hard evidence to make us believe he's here. There have been some mediums that have been walking through really sensitive people that can see things more than others, and they've said that they think Dr. Frank might be here. You can reach out to Dr. Frank if you want. Maybe you can get some answers for us that'll make us believe. Also in this room, one, maybe two child spirits or children's spirits, I should say. The first one is the reason why I asked everybody about your earrings. So maybe it's Bobby, maybe it's somebody else. We do believe that it is definitely just some kid who is not being malicious or anything like that. He just sees something shiny and it's cool to him, so he takes it. So yeah, maybe it is Bobby. You can find out for us if you want. But definitely watch out. In this room as well is Sarah. Sarah is one of the more active children's spirits that we have. And Sarah likes to play hide and seek, which sounds like the plot of a really stupid horror movie. But it's a bit different than regular hide and seek. She has a slight advantage being a spirit. You can't see her that well. But if you do try to play hide and seek with Sarah, the way usually people find her, she likes to hide underneath things. So walking in front of a table or sitting on a couch or anything. Sarah will usually let people know that they have found her by tugging on their ankles or grabbing the back of their leg a little bit. Which sounds horrifying, absolutely. But the way that you can tell you're being touched by a spirit is probably not going to feel like a human hand. So if you do feel a human hand, turn around. It probably is. The way that most people report that they get touched by a spirit is that it feels like cobwebs or a loose hair. just like a feather, a really soft tickle, things like that. People have said that it feels almost like a really warm sensation. Flashlight, there we go. So people have said it feels like a really warm sensation, like if somebody had a lighter and they were holding it up to a small patch of skin like that. If you've heard of cold spots, hot spots, those are also a thing. People have also, not so commonly but still reported, that it feels like pins and needles, or like a small patch of their body goes numb or falls asleep. So things like that are what you're feeling for if you're trying to have a spirit touch you in any way. Now, with Sarah, playing hide and seek, spirit box is super cool for that. I've tried it with the spirit box before. I know people have done that. They've also done it with the K2s. There are people who like go and play hide and seek with Sarah. They tell her to hide. They go around with the K2 and see if it spikes up in any specific area. There was a lady who was doing this, and she had the spirit box out. She was looking around for Sarah. She walked right in front of this table about here, and through the spirit box, she said that she heard a voice that said, "You found me." So that was cool. Yeah, so you can try out different things like that. Does anybody have any questions about the lower level? Sweet. So, just a quick recap out there. We got kitchen areas, Shadow Man, linen room, Bobby, Dr. Frank, patient, surgery, Sarah, earring kit in here. This is the big one. So if you push through these doors, you go out that way. I'll meet you right out there in a minute. I'm going to blow out these lights and we'll go upstairs. That's important. Right this way. A bit disorienting walking into the dark basement. That's the front door, just so everyone is aware. So anytime that the Sorrels would have any visitors or guests, this is the first thing that they saw. It's also where we're going to be setting up the EDI. It's out here in this hallway, foyer area. We get a lot of reports of footsteps, people walking back and forth out here, people going up and down the stairs, things like that. So you reach out to anybody, see if they're hanging around out here. Try knocking on the staircase, see if that works. There was one time there was a group that was in here, and I'll take you in there in a little bit. They were in there, and they said that it sounded like somebody rolled a bowling ball across the floor out here. And of course, they were very confused. So they came out here, and of course, there was no bowling ball. So that was interesting. I don't know where that sound comes from. Maybe we can find out. Also out here is the last child spirit I'm going to introduce to you, Matilda Ann. So Francis and Matilda, his second wife, they had 8 children in total. 3 of those children never made it to the age of 7. And out of those 3, Matilda Ann was the oldest. When she was 6 years old, she did die on the 4th floor in what used to be the children's quarters of scarlet fever. And a lot of people have gotten evidence and experiences with her coming down the stairs, hanging around on the landing up there. So you can reach out to Matilda and see if she's around tonight. Now, I'm going to turn this on. It is going to start freaking out a little bit. We're going to head this way just for a brief moment. Unfortunately, as comfortable as all of the furniture up here may look, it's not okay to sit on. The floor, though, totally fine. The next room, there's some rugs, makes it a bit more comfortable than this. So, that's very unfortunate, I do apologize. But it is all like 200 some years old, so there's a reason. Now, this room was used as Francis's study. He was a businessman, a shipping merchant, very successful one at that. And in here, he would just do his business work, things like that. Have meetings, deal with other shipping merchants, sign contracts. Not a whole lot of exciting stuff ever really happened in this room. Today, not a whole lot of exciting stuff happens in this room. Doesn't mean you can't investigate in here. Definitely try it out. It's just kind of like we sometimes just say that this is probably the least active room in the whole house. We say it's the safe room. Some nights though, it's not the safe room. So if you want to, you can investigate in here. I don't know of anything that happens consistently enough to really tell you anything specific to try out. Maybe a spirit box or something in here. Now, if you are trying to do that, talk about business-related things. I would give you suggestions, but I don't know anything business-related, so I can't. Now, while you're up here, more likely over on across the hall where we're going right after this, there might be a point tonight where you hear a bunch of really loud stomping around footsteps coming from up there. That is a real person. Just to let everybody know, I'm going to debunk that ahead of time. The parlor rooms. Now, these Sorrels. Very wealthy family, some of the richest people in Savannah during their time. Francis, big successful businessman. He holds a high political status in the city because of this. And in order to upkeep this status and boost it a bit more, he hosted these extravagant parties all over the town. Hundreds of people attending them. So looking around in here, you can probably assume it did not start in the house. They actually started outside in the square, which they used as their front yard. Later in the evening, though, the party outside kind of dies down and people start leaving. They invite their closest friends and family, a couple, maybe some businessmen that Francis wants to talk with, back for the after parties. They feast, they drink, and they dance to the early hours of the morning. Then they split into two separate groups. The men would gather over here, the women over there, and the pocket doors would be closed. Now, all of their conversations could be held confidential to each other for the remainder of the parties. Now, in here, reach out to some of the party people. In this room specifically, people have gotten a lot of activity or evidence recently talking about like different types of cigars or different types of like alcohol, like whiskeys or brandies. If you have any knowledge of that, now's a good time to use it. So in here, talk about that stuff. Maybe try some business-related things in here as well. I don't know. What I like to recommend is, if it's possible with your group, is splitting in half by gender. Have the men come over here, women go over there. If that doesn't work out, maybe flip it, see if it does anything different. If you do decide to do this, one thing that I ask is that you do not close the pocket doors. They are the original pocket doors. They are super heavy, difficult to move. If you move them, I'm going to have a very awful time putting them back. I will not be excited, so please do not do that. So reach out to some of the party people in here. The piano. There's a sign on the piano that says, please do not touch. Spirits can do whatever they want, I don't care. So reach out. It's definitely played before, and that's always fun, kind of terrifying when that happens. So if you want, you can reach out and see if someone will play the piano. A lot of the times, what happens is people in the room won't hear it. People out of the room will hear it. Do not know why that is, because it's happened to me before, where I've been outside of the room, people were in here like reaching out trying to get the piano to play, and I heard it, but they didn't. There was one time when there was a group up here and this group downstairs, and people up here were trying to get the piano to play. They didn't hear anything. Group downstairs thought the people up here were playing the piano because they could hear it. So you try different things like that. Or have someone step out of the room, like just go over there on the hallway, see if they can hear the piano if someone's trying to play. So, yeah. Now we're going to head over this way. Freaking out trying to find it, that's where it is. No. Yeah, they use these for parties. They're also just kind of like the family rooms, common rooms, living room areas. But also, there's wakes in these rooms. Just so oh yeah, the floor over there does that. If you're walking that way and it creaks a whole bunch, that corner back there creaks a whole lot. I've had people like freak out about it before, and like it's so yeah. Now, yeah, they hosted wakes in here. It was just walked into a haunted house, probably expecting some sort of tragic story. You heard about the unknown number of deaths downstairs due to surgeries. There was a bit more familial tragedy that did occur on this property on March 27th of 1860. These Sorrels were setting up for one of these very large, luxurious parties. Matilda, the lady of the house, wants to check out on the preparations for this party. Normally to do so, she would have asked her most trusted out of all of the enslaved, her head housemaid, Molly. Molly had a little bit more responsibility than everybody else. She was essentially the supervisor. She got the orders directly from Matilda herself, and they gave those orders to everybody else. She was like kind of the authority of everyone. So it's really important that she was around, especially when there's a big party planning going on like this. Matilda could not find her anywhere. She's going all throughout the house, asking everyone if they had seen her. No one had. Finally, she thinks, Molly's not in here, maybe she's in her bedroom. So across the courtyard, top of the carriage house, is the third location that everyone's going to be investigating tonight. When it is your group's time to go that way, I'll bring you up there myself and tell you about it and show you around. When you get to the top of the stairs, there's a big area, there's a big open space at the top of the steps. Off to the side, there's a room that says by itself. That was Molly's personal bedroom. Being the head housemaid, she had her own personal bedroom. The only way to enter her room was from outside in the courtyard. There's a staircase that led to a balcony. That was the only way in and out of her room. Matilda goes up the stairs and she knocks on the door, but unfortunately there is no answer. So she then opens the door, and she does indeed find Molly in her bedroom in her bed. Unfortunately, she also finds her husband Francis. Now we can all take an educated guess as to what Francis was doing in Molly's bedroom with her, but it's also very important to keep in mind that Molly was enslaved and Francis was her owner. So there is very little to no chance that she would have had any kind of choice in what was happening. Seeing this, Matilda runs down the stairs and comes back to the house. Makes her way to the floor above us into her bedroom, goes out to the courtyard, and moments afterwards is seen falling over the balcony railing of the courtyard, landing, or the railing of the balcony, landing headfirst into the courtyard, later that evening dying from her injuries. Roughly 2 weeks later, these Sorrels, they cannot find Molly anywhere inside the house, so again they decide to look into her bedroom. They go up the stairs, they open the door, and again Molly is found in her bedroom. But this time she was found hanging from one of the rafters. There's a lot of mystery surrounding both of their deaths. I cannot tell you that Matilda wasn't pushed. I cannot tell you that she did not jump. I cannot tell you that she did not faint. What I can tell you is that in a local cemetery, you can find the Sorrel's family crypt, where you will not find Matilda with the rest of her family. She has an unmarked grave that is somewhere else in that cemetery. Usually the only reason for that in the 1800s would have been if it was in fact a suicide death. For Molly, much less documentation, much more of a mystery. She was seen as being property of these Sorrels, not even a person. So they told everyone she did that to herself. That was it. It was done. There was no investigation. No questions were asked. It was over. That's really all we know about it. But statistically, in the 1800s, the average height for a person was a bit shorter than it is now. And me being 5 feet, well, I'm like 5'5", and I have to stand on my toes to barely touch the rafters up there. Given Molly's age at the time and also the year back then where it happened, we made the assumption that she was more than likely under 5 feet tall. The rafters are like 8 feet in the air. Not very likely for her to have any kind of furniture either to assist her getting up. So we've always been under the kind of way we all believe here pretty much unanimously that Matilda did commit suicide. Molly was more than likely murdered. Now, kind of a very sad note to end on. But we do believe that both of their spirits still reside here today. You're more than welcome to reach out to either of them if you would like. I ask that you do so with the utmost respect. Their deaths are absolutely nothing to be taken lightheartedly, and same for all the other spirits here. We like to treat them with respect, and in return they treat us with respect. That's kind of the rule that we have of the house. So when it comes to agitating spirits to kind of just get a reaction, do not do that. We do not want anything negative here. We don't like anything negative here. I don't want anything. We don't need it really. I really don't want to hear because honestly, I have to be here like every day. And if I have to come into work and fear for anything bad to happen to me that I cannot control, I don't want it to happen. So, yeah, respect for the house, spirits, each other even. If you're up here, you're investigating, and there are going to be people below you. Maybe don't stomp around or shout because they're absolutely going to hear it. People downstairs, the people up here, stomp around and shout. They're going to hear it. Do keep that in mind. carries in a very old house. There's no way around. Now, all that being said, are there any final questions?